Generally, fundamentally disagree with Senator Barrett as the norm, but today I find myself in agreement with most of what he said. I'd like to welcome you, Minister, to the House and welcome you the update that you have given us on local government reform. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of the President of the AMAI, Councillor Willie Callaghan, and his colleague, Councillor Mark Dalton, in the Visitors' Gallery today. Minister, after much deliberation and consultation with members of the AMAI and local politicians around the country since the 16th of October 2012, I have come to the conclusion that putting people first is based more on reductions in the number of councillors and less on the radical reform that we were promised. We all know that strong local government should play a vital part in a functioning democracy, a democracy that strives to represent the public interest at all times. So the proposed reduction in the number of elected representatives across the country and the abolition of town councils needs reassessment. What we need and what councillors across the country are calling for is a rebalancing to ensure that this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reform local government is not wasted. And this is not reductionism sold as the upgrading of local government. I have been contacted by town councillors across the political spectrum since the launch of the document in October 2012, and they are all saying the same thing, that it will be impossible for many small towns across this country to elect any councillor or for any small party to fly their party's flag if the current proposals go ahead in their present format. I have said in the past that if we really want to reform local government, then we should curb the powers of county managers who are merely using councillors as rubber stamps. Minister, the current system needs to be reformed. I acknowledge and I support that reform, but it should not be another opportunity for reductionism. I have said previously on the record of this House that I believe you have at heart the desire to reform local government, but currently there is not enough clarification in putting people first document on the amount of new powers that will be provided to councils. I have had phone calls from local representatives asking what new powers will be transferred to them. This issue needs clarity. Government departments need to be prepared to let go of powers in order to enhance and embrace the concept of local government reform that you are putting forward. There is also a serious deficit of information as to whether the new municipal councils will indeed have their own financial autonomy. Will they just be looking to another paymaster instead of central government, the county council, to be paid with money, to be provided with money to provide local services? The cost of running town councils and local government has been greatly exaggerated in many quarters in order to build public support for slashing and burning local democracy. As far as I can see, this has not worked. The people I have been talking to from all walks of life and in my own constituency appreciate the service town councillors provide for the small remuneration they receive considering their responsibilities. In Killarney, for example, a town councillor receives a representational payment of €85 per week and is responsible and accountable for a budget of more than €13 million annually. To date, there has not been any constructive engagement between the department, mainstream staff, or staff and local development companies. The department has refused to talk with staff or their unions regarding the new policy of alignment of development companies with local authorities. This issue needs to be addressed as a matter of urgency, as already been alluded to by Senator Donal O'Brien. All of these issues need clarity and Breen O'Donnell, my apologies. All of these issues need clarity, and trying to rush all this through into legislation within 100 days is not in the best interest of the country and certainly not the package of local government reform for which we have waited 100 years. The AMAI, as the overarching body for town and borough councils, celebrated its 100th anniversary during the time the association has overseen many changes in life in general in Ireland. I have been involved with the AMAI for over 20 years, and I have seen the importance of the organisation working with its membership to ensure the best result is achieved in this instance in local government reform. So I welcome your comments, Minister, on Morning Ireland last week, when you spoke of your willingness to work with both the AMAI and the ACC to move this issue forward, and the need for unity within councils and councillors. And I note again today, and I welcome your reference to engagement with these organisations. Minister, you have proved to be a pragmatic politician all through your political career, and you have taken concerns expressed by people in rural Ireland very seriously. I commend you for that. You reduced the charges for septic tank registration. This is where I differ from Senator O'Donnell. And made provisions for a grant system for upgrades where they are required. A proposal to reduce the provisions of senior citizens' alarms last week was reversed by you. On both issues you acted pragmatically and with conviction. I am now calling for you, Minister, to show the same concern and pragmatism to allow this process to run at a workable pace, to expect submissions to the Local Boundary Committee to proceed between the end of January and into a full report by May, and then on foot of this to draft legislation to change a century of local government before the summer recess is both impractical and unachievable, in my opinion. The consequences of trying to adhere to this tight deadline will be that councillors and candidates across the country will see their elected areas change by up to 40 miles in any direction and be expected to contest an election with at best a run-in of 7 or 8 months. Thank you. On foot of all I have outlined, Minister, I am asking you to consider ensuring that any legislation passed will not affect the boundaries for the next local elections. This will allow sitting councillors and potential candidates to have an adequate readjustment period, in line, I might add, with that is being provided to Dáil constituencies so that they can plan for contesting elections. I am requesting you to consider this proposal to ensure that we get it right from day one and indeed reform local government, but we don't diminish the role of local government, particularly at the lowest practicable level, and we remain in line with the European Charter on Local Self-Government that we signed in 1997. I would argue today, Minister, the establishment of the Boundary Commission and the proposed abolition of town councils disregards Article 5 of the European Charter on Local Self-Government, despite the fact that Ireland signed up to it. I am asking you to address my concerns and concerns of councillors across the country. The spirit of togetherness that exists within local councils to get the right outcome for democracy is out there, Minister. It's real, and I urge you to engage with it in order to achieve a satisfactory outcome for all Democrats on this island. Thank you.